Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to Pork Chop Fabrication. Today, we get to use our tube bender to build a front bumper for our project 2004 4Runner. Okay, so you've decided you want to build a front bumper for your own 4x4, but where do you start? Well, a few things to consider. What type of bumper you want and what capabilities you want it to have. Now, there's three main types of bumpers. The stock OEM one, tube bumpers, and plate bumpers. Stock OEM bumpers are perfect. They work great if you plan to keep it on the streets. But if you want to start off-roading and you want higher clearance, better approach angle, and for your tires to hit the rocks or the dirt before your bumper does, it might be the reason why you're thinking about upgrading. Which leaves us with our other two, plate bumpers and tube bumpers. Now, plate bumpers are extremely strong if built right and can withstand heavy impacts. On the downside, they weigh a lot. Tube bumpers, on the other hand, are a little bit lighter weight, but come at a cost of they might not withstand hard impacts, especially against rocks. So for this build, we're actually going to go with a tube bumper for the main reason being weight savings. Some of the capabilities is to house this winch, along with provide recovery points in case we need to get winched out, along with adding increased approach angle and tire clearance. So for this front bumper, I'm planning on a tube bumper that'll actually tuck behind the factory bumper. Now, I don't want to keep the whole factory bumper for the simple fact of I want to increase tire clearance, but I still want to keep this vehicle to look very clean, very sharp, and almost OEM, like if Toyota TRD Development built this. We're going to be using 120 wall DOM tubing to run behind this. I wouldn't recommend anything thinner than 120 wall. And for DOM means drawn over mandrel, so it's a stronger tubing than just mild steel. Now I'm running 1.75 tubing, so it'll be tucked up right behind there. It's going to be the same diameter tubing I'm running on the rock sliders. Now, tubing and pipe are two different measurements. Tubing's measured by outside diameter, and pipe is measured by inside diameter. So, we're going to be using tubing. We don't use pipe in fabrication. And 120 wall is the thinnest you want to go. I've seen other videos and people use 0.095 wall, and I think it's ridiculous, especially on bumpers, on stuff that you might see an impact on rocks and coming in contact. This is definitely the thinnest I would ever recommend to go. And where I pull some of these numbers are from the race books of KOH or pre-running, so like the Mint 400, Baja 1000 and all that. They all have rules and specs to build your chassis out of. And for the most part, it's all 120 wall DOM, and in some parts it's thicker and thinner depending on how much rigidity you need in the chassis. But this is a good size, just stick with. I started off by measuring from the edge of the bumper to the center to give me a rough measurement of how much tubing I would need. Then I used masking tape to measure from the top radius of the bumper down to give me a clean line to cut off.
up using an oscillating tool to cut the plastic. This helps keep the plastic cool as you're cutting, whereas a cutoff wheel tends to melt the plastic and leaves a really rough, unfinished edge. I am marking the center of the tubing as a reference point to where I should start my first two bends, as well as where I need to put the tubing in the die for those bends. The outer two bends in this tubing will be marked after the first two are completed and the tubing's put on the vehicle, so I can get a good visual reference on where I want those bends to start. Once I have the first two bends completed, I center the tubing on the bumper and measure in from the ends where I want the second two bends to start. The two inside bends ended up being around 23 degrees, and the two outer bends were closer to 50 degrees.
Got the main tube bent. It's fairly on a level plane. I bought a $15 angle finder off eBay, and it got you $15 worth of angles. So probably invest in something a little bit more expensive next time. But for this, it's not too important. Most of the tie-ins will be in the front. So I cut it a little bit long from my measurements, but I'd rather have it long and trim some than have it too short. We're just gonna fit it right now up in here, and it tucks up extremely nice. And once I trim the ends, it'll be all nice on the ends. So that's pretty much that. So you can see right now, it's not gonna sit right there. It's gonna get all tucked up underneath the bumper, but coming to the end right there, we're probably gonna trim 2-3 inches off because this whole wheel well is gonna get trimmed anyways, but we're not wasting too much material. And this was just a measurement from the inside of the fender and a rough estimate to the center of the vehicle. I think it turned out pretty dang close. But that tube's gonna be completely tucked away. Then we'll have some down tubes and figure out the winch after that.
I ended up cutting off the factory frame horns and fabricating my own custom frame horns, which allowed a place for the D-ring mounts to be welded onto and a secure place to pull from.
Okay, got the main bumper structure welded up. Got this tubing right here just tacked in place. This is actually what the winch plate is going to sit on. This bumper looks really low right now, like there's a huge gap between the grill and the top tube, which there is. But the valence or the factory OEM bumper cover will be going over this and fill in all the gaps. So this is just tacked in right now. And how I got the spacing was actually a tip I got from the guys over at Warren on SEMA last year. They said use a cardboard box cut out about the same size as the winch, and it makes it a whole lot easier to fit it in place and play around. So instead of using a heavy winch, use a cardboard box, play with your measurements, make sure the box is the same measurements as your winch, and you can really just get a good eyeball picture of where you want your winch if you're building something custom like this. So let's get the winch plate tacked in place and go from there, and we should be wrapping this up.
I cut the winch plate out of some 3/16 inch steel with the fair lead mount on top of that and some angle iron below to reinforce it.
And it's done! Right there. It looks so good. Let me flip the camera around and show you guys the details. Here it is. Don't mind my dogs barking in the background. Really clean, simple bumper cut. Has an integrated hidden away winch. Still was able to keep my little rigid pods with that stylish silver Factor 55 hook and rope guard. Kind of ties it all together. So I do have a Factor 55 fair lead as well. I felt like the worn fair lead looked better, just all blacked out, kind of hides it away. Really shows off the link as well. You can see the Warren VR10S in there. I'm using these fender washers from Dirt King Fabrication to hold in the skid plate and the factory bumper. Got my turn signals and running lights integrated in. Then down here you can see, so I plated it and gusseted it back right there. It's gusseted in the rear for the, right there for the D-ring mounts. These D-ring mounts are oblonged for soft shackles, so pretty cool. I got them from EMS Off-Road. All grade 8 hardware. Yeah, I'm stoked with how this came out. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, click like. If you want to see more, click subscribe. If you have any questions about the build, you could leave a comment down in the video or hit me up on Instagram at porkchop_fabrication. DM me there or leave a comment on one of the photos. Next up is rear bumper. Hopefully keeping the same look, but this just looks great, especially with the rock sliders. Really clean look. So hopefully you guys liked. Join again for the next video.